Le spoile tempiono.
Hello and welcome or welcome back to Jazzbee Studio. Today we'll be making Remy from the cult classic Ratatouille out of clay. He is going to be a gift for my rat-obsessed friend's birthday. Not only is she dating a rat, and by this I mean he's the year of the rat in the Chinese zodiac, but she is also a huge Remy stan. No joke, in our group chat she named herself Ratatouille's girlfriend and her boyfriend Remy. I wanted to make something cute and memey, but also something at least minorly functional, so naturally I went on Pinterest for a little inspiration. It wasn't long before I stumbled upon these cute character block calendars and decided that I could probably make something like that. So on my next trip to the thrift store, I found exactly what I needed, a block calendar. And not only that, it was in the shape of a house. Honestly, I'm super happy with this find because it's the perfect setup for a stove. Here's the plan. Create a pan of ratatouille, of course, and a pot of soup to sit on top of the stove. My friend once mentioned a green kitchen in passing, so that is why I've made the wall green. But the kitschy tile backsplash is actually a dream of mine for my own feature kitchen, so that's why I've included it. Plus, I think it's very cute. The top was looking a little plain, so I drew in a clock and a shelf, leaving it as a problem for future me to figure out. As for Mr. Remy himself, I wanted him to have a chef hat, a beret, and a multitude of other accessories he could hold. My idea was to have magnets embedded in his hands, on his head, and in the items so that they would stick on him easily. Now let's get cooking. I got this polymer clay, and I got this wire, and I'm gonna try to make arms for Remy. This is just a calico critter as reference. Just disrobe her. Sorry, girl. Following this tutorial I found, link in the description, I begin by cutting 4 pieces of wire and then creating an eye on one end of the wires. Then I create a hook on a second wire before threading it through the eye and pressing the loop closed with pliers. That's one set done, and then you just repeat for the second set. Next I am using the polymer clay to brace the hinge, making sure the wire travels in a linear path. I do this for both sets and then send it off to the oven to bake at 135 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes. Here they are after baking, and now we can move on to creating Remy's main body. Using some tin foil, I crumple it into a ball about the size of a calico critter and insert the arms I just made into it so he can give us a little wave. For the tail, I cut a longer piece of wire to wrap around the bottom of the aluminum clump, twisting it together to secure it and then shaping the tail with my hands and cutting off the excess. Now I hot glue the arms into the main frame to make sure they don't budge, and with Remy's innards complete, we can finally move on to sculpting him with air dry clay. After warming up the clay with my hands, I just begin applying the clay haphazardly to the frame until it is fully encased, making sure to leave the arm hinges clay free. Remy is actually quite beefy, so I add some more clay to his little rat butt, adding even more clay to create his hind legs and hips before smoothing everything out with some water. Here I am defining his legs. They should jut out farther than his body, so I push the clay from the middle towards the outer legs and smooth it out with my fingers. I made his tinfoil head off camera and then stuck it into the main frame with some wire, once again adding hot glue to secure it. Now I add a circle of clay to his face, covering the whole head, and then creating a little ball for his nose. Next I add 2 sausages of clay to his head to create his brow bones above each eye socket. Once that's done, I roll 2 more balls for his eyes before adding 2 sausages below them to create his eye bags. And that's his little face all completed. It's lobotomy time. I push the magnet into the top of his head before covering it up with a small piece of clay. For his ears, I made a flat circle and pinched one end before attaching it to his head. I then moved onto his tail, covering it with a log of clay and smoothing it onto the wire until it resembled a thin noodle.
Yummy, yummy.
I then began layering clay onto his arms until they looked like a pair of oven mitts before inserting a magnet into each hand. For his feet, I used 2 oval pieces of clay and cut out 3 toes on each foot. Then I score the clay where I want them to be and attach them with some slip. I think his eyes look a little scary, maybe. His arms look a little weird because my hinge, so I'm just gonna wait for him to dry. then we can get started on the rest of the project. Hopefully the lighting was good. I always get wrapped up in creating the product that I forget to check the camera and the lighting. I'm just kind of bad. Sorry. I'm working on it. So it's the next day, and now we have Remy. He's cracking a little bit in some places, like around his tail. See the crack? He is definitely like a very similar size to the Sylvanian family, or California. Now I get to make all my miscellaneous items for him to hold. Low key, this was maybe my favorite part because I get to make all these random vegetables and kitchen stuff. Speaking of kitchen stuff, we are starting with the pot. Nothing too special. I do end up using a loose AA battery to mold it though. Maybe not the smartest or safest idea, but it worked well and served its purpose. I also found out that the wire I used for Remy's armature was magnetizable, so I used 2 pieces of it as the handle for the pot, allowing him to hold it. This is the size of the spoon, I think, that we're gonna do. And the knife, let's do like this size. I think that's a good knife size. Gonna make the handle. It's like square, rectangular, not square. I don't know my shapes.
I don't know my fruits.
It does stick to his hand. Next, we're gonna make our little wooden spoon. And we have to make sure this one works too. Next up is the wedge of cheese. We are going for a very classic cartoon depiction. PSA for the magnets inside: if you care which direction the items face when attached, remember that one side repels and the other attracts. So check which end is facing up before putting it in. That's my cheese. Next up is a grape. Nothing special, just an oval with a hole on one end. That looks more like an olive. Now we have a tomato, which I think ended up the cutest. All of the food items have magnets inside, by the way. We do mushroom bonk. It's so cute when he holds them though. I love it. I think I'm gonna put these all in like an Altoids tin. So I kind of want to make a little sardine, a fish tin, if you will. I think it needs at least 1 fish in the fish tin, but also, so I know you all really love fish. That's our fish. That's it. All done. Next, I am making the piece de resistance itself, the namesake of the cinematic masterpiece, Ratatouille, in a cast iron pan. A slight deviation from the movie version, but it's my art, so no complaining. I used a piece of wire as its handle, of course, so Remy could hold it. Then I painstakingly cut each individual slice of vegetable and scalped them in the pan. What have I made? I have to make his hats. He can wear the Ratatouille though. Oh my gosh, he can wear all these foods too.
Do you or do you not feel bonita?
He is a fashion icon. A beret. It's kind of like this shape. That's his beret. Moving on to his chef hat, I stuffed the top part with tinfoil so it wouldn't be too top heavy. But it still was, because it falls off his head when he is tipped back, even with the magnet inside. It's really cute. Here are all the pieces I made. Now we wait for them to dry. It's the next day and it is time to begin sanding out all the rough edges. Enjoy this ASMR break. You can now see all the pieces in their unpainted glory before we head into the painting process. It's giving ancient marble statues. Speaking of statues, look at these rats I saw in Prague. They are so silly. Not gonna lie though, him holding the pot and the ratatouille is everything to me. For Remy's body, I mixed up a bluish gray that might be a little too blue, but that's okay. And I just began slapping it on there, making sure to get into all his nooks and crannies, including the hinges, so it all blends in. I also made the salmon pink for his extremities, taking care in painting only where the pink is needed. Then I go back in with the gray to blend the seams between skin and fur. Afterwards, I create a lighter gray to add some highlights to Remy's body, painting in straight strokes with a liner brush to imitate fur, and I do this for his entire body. Next, with some pure white, I go in and paint his eyeballs, going in after with some brown for his irises.
I think they're too big.
So I make them smaller. Now it's time to paint all the food and accessories. Low-key, creating all these miniature fruits and veggies, as well as the kitchen items, has made me realize I kind of love making them. You might catch me making other miniatures in the future. Painting these also makes me think about my favorite part of the movie, where Remy is tasting the cheese and strawberry together for the first time. It is also why I made a grape before realizing it was supposed to be a strawberry. I've also started making reference to this in my real life. When two things together taste amazing, I say, I'm having a Ratatouille moment. I would love to know what your random movie references are, so let me know in the comments below. For the Ratatouille, I start by painting the cast iron black before going in and laying down some beige. Then I go and paint slices in the order of red, green, yellow, and brown for the tomato, zucchini, squash, and eggplant respectively. The chef hat gets a layer of white. The pot gets a gray for a stainless steel look. Gray and brown for the knife. A layer of golden brown for the spoon before painting some lines to imitate wood grain. And that brings us to the end of the painting session. Now we wait 24 hours for the paint to fully dry. While we wait, we can move on to creating the actual block calendar stove. First things first, I cut off the chimney, for no other reason than I didn't like it. And then with this old watch I got from my sister, I attempted to dismantle it to create the clock for the wall. After a YouTube tutorial or two, I got it to fully open and took out the watch face to repaint it. Nothing too complex, I just wanted to replace the ugly big teal numbers with something on theme. So I decided on painting a cheese block, a tomato, a basil leaf, and a fish in their place.
The batteries came in. Let's try it out. Hopefully it works.
And thank God it does. Yay! Moving on, I use the clock to trace out the shape I need to cut out of the wall for it to go into. I then began sawing away. This actually took me forever with an X-Acto knife, but that's all I had.
Thank God.
Next, I use a small rounded file to smooth out the rough edges and finalize the size of the hole. I then use the file to extend the gap to the right for the watch stem to sit. And look at that, a perfect fit. It's not a transformation without any paint, so I'm painting on an avocado green shade for the kitchen wall. Next, I loosely sketch out a grid for the tiles for the backsplash. I follow that up with a coat of white paint to cover the cheesy mom coat,
Life is good at home.
painting within the lines. I then start painting in the color of the tiles, loosely following the sketch I did beforehand. I did want all the colors to be a bit mismatched for a more eclectic look. While waiting for that layer to dry, I start painting on the vines and leaves on the top of the wall using pure white. Now I can draw in the tile designs, starting with a lily pad, then a tulip, a yellow flower thing, a small bunny, a green flower, details for the lily pad, an orange, some fish, of course, a cherry, a leaf, a tomato, a strawberry, another flower, and finally a block of cheese. For the stovetop, I just painted on 2 black circles to represent the burners. Then I paint 3 black circles on the front for the knobs, and I also include little red lights as power indicators. With that, painting is complete and I move on to creating the shelf, using an old piece of balsa wood from a university project. I eyeball the measurements and cut it to size. first I glue on the clock and a little frame I made for it out of clay. I then also glue on the little shelf. As the final step for the block calendar, I screw on the watch plate so that the battery and gears aren't exposed. Using my tried and true Mont varnish, I apply it on each individual square to get it to resemble real tiles, as the varnish adds a glossy layer and will protrude outward. You can sort of see it here. I also applied it to the burners, but I forgot to film that part, sorry. For Remy and the rest of his items, I have to gloss them in 2 parts. I gloss one side and leave it to dry for 2 hours before flipping them over and glossing the other side. Low-key, making Remy glossy kind of gives him that wet rat look. Here is everything glossed up, and now we leave them for 24 hours to fully cure. As you can see, he can also do a handstand, but only for drying purposes. Making a fish tin wasn't part of the original plan, but I figured Remy needed a place to store all his things. Starting with an empty tin, I trace it on some felt and cut out 2 identical pieces, then hot glue them in. I was inspired by the Altoids tin wallets that people make, and because sardine prints are super trendy right now, and are something you would find in a kitchen, I settled with this design idea. Next, I trace and cut out the sides of the tin with felt, again hot gluing it in afterwards. The inside is now complete, and then I sand down the whole tin so that the polymer clay and the paint will adhere better. I needed to flatten the top of the tin as the letters are embossed in metal, so I grabbed my polymer clay from before and start applying it to the top of the tin as evenly as possible. My gripe with polymer clay is that I can't use water like I normally would to help smooth everything out, so that was a bit of a learning curve for me. It also sticks to everything.
The heck? It's like I have people on my desk.
I then created a sardine to go on top and added in some details. Once completed, it goes in the oven to bake at 135 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. As a side note, maybe don't do the inside before baking. My dumb self didn't even consider that the felt would shrink and the glue would melt inside, creating a little bit of a mess. Once the tin is done baking, it is ready to be painted. I kind of copied the inspo picture and used the same color palette, but made some design changes. I also wanted it to be mostly green to match the block calendar. For the lettering, I write sardines with a pencil so I have a guide and then begin painting afterwards. Then I just freehand the rest of the designs. I actually really love how the fish tin turned out. I might make another one to put in my purse. Not sure what I would put in it though. Once that was all dry, I used some clear spray paint sealer outside, and after another 24 hours, everything was fully cured. I almost forgot to make his apron, so here I am quickly putting one together. I used some scrap fabric I had and kind of eyeballed the measurements. I double up the fabric and sew it together, leaving one side open so I can turn the fabric inside out, then ironing to flatten. I fold over the top section to create a loop I can thread a string through and sew it down. After the front panel was done, I used some satin cord from my last video as the string for his apron. I thread it through the hole I made and tie it around Remy. Look how adorable he is. And finally, everything is complete. I love how all the items turned out and how, excluding the pot and his chef hat, it all fits into the tin. Honestly, so satisfying to see. Here is Remy in his final form, modeling all his accessories like the style icon he is, not only serving in the kitchen, but also on the runway. I've also been obsessed with these frog reels on Instagram, so I had to make a slightly unhinged Temu version with Remy. Enjoy!
Recycle may kulang, original taste. The sugar 1.5, say ingredients. Carbonated may kulang, caramel kulang. Acidity regulator, natural flavor may kulang.
That's it, that's all I've got. Now enjoy these photos of Remy in his new home and just in general. Before I go, I just wanted to say thank you. It truly was surreal for me to be on a Flixbus in the Czech Republic and seeing my fish keychain video pop off a little. Everyone's comments and suggestions were so kind and helpful for not only future projects but future videos. I even had a couple of people send me their creations on Instagram and it truly almost made me cry. So cheesy, but it's true. Hopefully I can keep making these kinds of videos, and I would love to see what people create after being inspired by them. So once again, thank you so much, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to see more silly crafts in the future. Let me know if there's anything you would like to see me make in the meantime, and I'll see you again next time. Hopefully. Goodbye.